I'm the program manager from Catholic Charities of Diocese of Stockton. And I'd like to welcome you to our Season of Creation 2021. But first, I would like to start off with a reading, the Canticles of Brother Sun and Sister Moon by St. Francis of Assisi. Most high, all powerful, all good Lord, all praise is yours, all glory, all honor, and all blessings. To you alone, most high, do they belong, and no mortal lips are worthy to pronounce your name. Praise be to you, my Lord, with all your creatures, especially Sir Brother Sun, who is the day through whom you give us light, and he is beautiful and radiant with great splendor. Of you, most high, he bears a likeness. Praise be to you, my Lord, through Sister Moon and the stars. In the heavens, you have made them bright, precious, and fair. Praise be you, my Lord, through brothers wind and air, and fair and stormy, all weathers moods, by which you cherish all that you have made. Praise be you, my Lord, through Sister Water, so useful, humble, precious, and pure. Praise be you, my Lord, through Brother Fire, through whom you light the night, and he is beautiful and playful and robust and strong. Praise be you, my Lord, through our sister, Mother Earth, who sustains and governs us, producing varied fruits with colored flowers and herbs. Praise be you, my Lord, through those who grant pardon for love of you and bear sickness and trial. Blessed are those who endure in peace. By you, most high, they will be crowned. Praised be you, my Lord, through Sister Death, from whom no one living can escape. Woe to those who die in mortal sin. Blessed are they she finds doing your will. No second death can do them harm. Praise and blessings, my Lord, and give him thanks, and serve him with great humility. Amen.
Today, our workshop about Season of Creation is brought to you by the Environmental Justice Program. Can you go next, Alec? First, to start off, we're going to give a brief background about the Diocese of Stockton. It was formed on January 13, 1962. Our bishop currently is Myron J. Cotta, and it's comprised of 6 counties: San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Calaveras, Tuolumne, Alpine, and Mono. And it offers education about Catholic social teaching, which embodies these 7 themes. One is a call to family, community, and participation, dignity of the human person, dignity of work and the rights of workers, care for God's creation, solidarity, rights and responsibilities, and preferential option of the poor and vulnerable. Under the Diocese of Stockton is a Catholic organization, which is Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities partners with others in advocating for justice and in assisting those in need by providing help for today and hope for tomorrow. Catholic Charities is a 501c nonprofit, and here are a list of our current programs: senior services, veteran services, immigration, environmental justice, healthcare access, nutrition assistance, family wellness, advanced care planning, and disaster prevention and recovery.
All right, great. Thank you for that, Melissa. So moving on to the person who really started the environmental justice project was Bishop Stephen Blair, who passed away in 2019. He was always an advocate for social justice, environmental justice. In 2005, he saw the need for the environmental justice program in the Diocese of Stockton due to various unjust practices such as redlining and news that that high areas of pollution exist near disadvantaged communities. So the diocese saw the need for environmental justice in the Northern Central Valley. The Environmental Justice Project has been at the forefront of environmental justice issues in San Joaquin and Stanislaus County for the last 16 years. Our mission is really comprised of 3 different aspects, starting with advocacy. We advocate for environmental justice through education and outreach. Community. and provide the resources necessary to promote equity within poor and vulnerable communities, which are statistically proven to be more impacted by pollution than others. Parish. We use our unique Catholic voice to encourage others to be environmental stewards. So we have a small team of 5, starting with our program manager, Hector Olivares. We also have Jonathan Pruitt, our program coordinator out of San Joaquin County. And we have Martha Armas Kelly, our program coordinator out of Stanislaus County. Melissa Vargas, our program specialist out of San Joaquin County. And myself, the program specialist for Stanislaus County. So with that, we have 3 areas of focus: to educate and raise awareness regarding environmental issues among communities, advocate for clean air and other regional issues that impact health and economic disparities in the Central Valley, and to advocate for sustainable communities via engagement in local planning. I'll go ahead and hand it off to Jonathan.
Thank you, Alec. Season of creation, it takes place every year. It takes place in September 1st through October 4th, which is usually the last day being St. Francis feast day. Every year during the season of creation, Christians on 6 continents unite to pray, to take action, and advocate for our common home. Each year, they feature a different theme and a new logo to unite around on the idea of caring for creation. This year, it's Home for All, renewing the oikos of God. The logo is Abraham's tent, which symbolizes a home for all. And we'll go more into depth in the next slide on what is Abraham's tent. The story behind Abraham's tent. God decided to have a special talk with Abraham, one of his chosen people. All heaven stood still and listened as God spoke to the words to him. I want you to leave your country, your family, and your father's house. I want you to go into a land that I will show you. God did not provide the location. This would be a big step of faith for Abraham and his wife, Sarah. God wanted them to leave everything and everyone and starting over in a new land. This was no small thing. Because Abraham at this time was over 75 years old. But Abraham had faith and he did what God told him. He got his group and he walked for miles and miles. In the day, he would walk, and at night, he would set up his tent. And that's sort of the depiction of what the idea of the tent would be, which is he opened up his tent for strangers. And specifically on Genesis 18, he opened up his tent as a home for 3 strangers who turned out to be God's angels. By creating a home for all, their act of radical hospitality became a source of great blessing. Abraham's tent is a symbol of our ecumenical call to practice creation care as an act of radical hospitality, safeguarding a place for all creatures, human and more human, in our common home, the household or oikos of God. Next slide, please. In this slide, we're going to really give an idea of what it means to be sustainable stewards. You know, a good understanding would be looking at between eco and ego. Ego means rule over others, and the world can look like a really dirty planet. If you can see on the left, you can clearly see there's discrepancies between the different sorts of animals and the animal chains. Eco, ECO, means to be equal with one another, the differences of others, and to not rule over each other, but to respect. The world, and animals also us, we have the right to help and not to punish harshly. Integral ecology, which is something Pope Francis advocates for, is really a concept in chapter 4 of Laudato Si, Pope Francis' encyclical, which was talking about the environment. It flows from his understanding that everything is closely related, and that today's problems call for a vision capable of taking into account every aspect of the global crisis. Relationships take place at the atomic and molecular level between plants and animals and among species in ecological networks and systems. For example, he points out, we need only recall how systems interact in dispersing carbon dioxide, purifying water, controlling illnesses and epidemics, forming soil, breaking down waste, and in many other ways which we overlook and simply do not know about. Nor can the environment be considered in isolation. Nature cannot be regarded as something separate from ourselves or as a mere setting in which we live, writes the Pope. We are part of nature.
Yeah, that was great, Jonathan. Thank you. So as mentioned, how can you be an environmental steward? So really, the definition of environmental stewardship refers to the responsible use and protection of the natural environment through conservation and sustainable practices. So it really just depends on how far you want to take it. For example, one sustainable practice is recycling. I mean, that's a very basic jump off point. To make sure that you're properly disposing of the glass, metal, paper, and plastic that you use, so we can reuse that product, because those materials take very long to decompose, and some of it doesn't decompose at all. So it's very important to recycle so that we can reuse these items. There's also certain practices like urban greening, which is where in metropolitan areas, you basically cover any kind of surface that you can with vegetation, because concrete and glass materials used in metropolitan areas doesn't absorb heat, but rather it reflects heat, causing something called as the urban heat island effect. Which causes temperatures to rise larger than they need to be or higher than they need to be, and causes that heat to continue into the night, where people usually have that chance to cool down. People die from heat waves every year, so it's definitely something to consider. It's really just about being aware of your carbon footprint, the amount of resources your lifestyle requires you to consume in comparison to the rest of the world. So in the United States, we are very privileged because we are able to use up a lot. Each household is able to use up a large amount of resources, whether this be having multiple cars in our driveway, taking showers every day, multiple times a day, eating different kinds of foods that are complicated to manufacture through unethical practices such as factory farming. These are all things to consider, because in other parts of the world, people don't bathe every day, people don't have cars, so they have much smaller carbon footprints than the average American. Another way that you can be an environmental steward is to speak out about these issues, is to start conversations within your community to really raise awareness about environmental conservation. Ways that you can be proactive during the climate crisis. Well, the climate crisis is not going anywhere, unfortunately. We're seeing more and more environmental disasters happen every year, more frequently. To really be proactive during this time, you have to have strategic planning. Consider lifestyle changes. For example, if you live really close to where you work or where you go to the gym, where you shop for groceries, and you drive there every day, maybe consider walking or biking, a more sustainable way of transportation. Because the more that we use our gas-powered engines, the more carbon dioxide that we see in our atmosphere, causing a whole domino effect of problems. More strategic planning is learning to adapt to new technologies. So as countries around the world are trying to meet carbon neutrality, a lot of industries are moving away from fossil fuels. In the United States and in California, we're moving away from gas-powered engines to more electric vehicle technology to create more sustainable ways of transportation. So adapting to these new technologies is important to consider. And plan for environmental disasters. Be aware of where you live and what kind of environmental disasters you're vulnerable to. Do you live in places where you're vulnerable to flooding or wildfires or drought, famine. These are all different things that you have to consider and have a disaster plan for. So more ways that you can be proactive is to get involved with some environmental justice projects. Start a recycling campaign at your parish, church, congregation, or community, and use that money to save for a community garden. Organize cleanup events at local parks, trails, beaches, and fisheries to kind of promote the growth of the ecosystem in those open green spaces. Conduct community research and present local environmental concerns to your city council and other elected officials. I'd say that's a really important one to consider, because if you want to see real change in your community and you want real funding behind your projects, it's important to bring the community's concerns to your local elected officials so that you can really see some policy change. Some other ways to be proactive is to join global advocacy campaigns. There's a lot of them out there. We have the website listed here on the screen. We have the Laudato Si movement, the Climate Action Network, the Fossil Free Movement, and the World Wildlife Fund is another one that's been around for a while. So to conclude this presentation, we'll conclude it with a question, which is rhetorical, just something to ask yourself. What are things you have done in your parish, community, congregation as an environmental steward? With that, we want to thank you for watching this video and attending this presentation. Have a good evening. Thank you.